Andy Secord here from Make Shots Basketball Training. Hopefully coming to you soon from a gym or from a court, not from inside where we all seem to be way too often these days. I'm here to talk today in our fifth part of our 7-part series on shooting skills that I analyze about the impact of the guide hand on a player's shot. If you want to engage a shooting coach or any basketball junkie in a good debate, talk about this. When the player shoots, what type of impact does their offhand have on the ball? Now, why do most players use that hand? It really comes from developmentally as they're getting older. Most players know that as they shoot, using 5 fingers is not going to give you as much power as using 6 or 7 as they thumb the ball or even use that index finger a little bit. So they develop this thumbing of the ball or guide hand turning, sometimes all the way out or sometimes just to here at a young age. And then as they get older and they get stronger, it's become a habit of their shot that truly they don't need, because those 5 fingers are more than enough in terms of strength and power to get the ball to the rim. So just 2 things before we jump into some film today. First, the less guide hand, specifically less thumb, impacts the shot, the straighter you're going to shoot the ball. That's not a Coach Secord thing. That's simple physics. If your 5 fingers are shooting the ball on line and this hand is not impacting the ball, you'll be able to shoot the ball straighter, which is what we should all want. Second, can a player thumb the ball and still make shots? Of course. Players come up to me all the time and say, Coach, I saw Steph thumb the ball when he made the shot the other day, or Steph thumbs the ball. My answer to that is always the same. 1, you're not Steph. You don't have the hand-eye coordination he does. You don't have the shooting skills he does. He's not the best person to compare your shot or your skill set to. You'd have to master all the other parts of the shot exactly like Steph to compare the guide hand. And we know that that's not happening. The other part of it is you're simply making a very hard process even harder when you start to use that guide hand. Players that make shots using their guide hand, they're making those shots in spite of that, not because of that. And that's an important difference for you to be able to make. Let's go ahead and take a look at some film. All right, for the film section of today's video, I just want to show you players with 3 differing levels of guide hand impact. So here's Allie Carlson, who we've seen on film before. Super talented sophomore from East Grand Rapids and plays for NBA with a handful of college basketball offers. So as you can see, Allie's an example of someone who has a very still and quiet guide hand, which allows her to shoot with really, really good accuracy with her right hand. So you can see a couple of things. First, that guide hand impact is still, you can see this angle of her left hand isn't really rigid, so her guide hand is not pushing the ball, so that there's no friction then between the right and the left hand. The right hand is in its proper position as she goes up into the shooting pocket and through the shooting tunnel to the release. You can see this guide hand stays perfectly still. What do we want to see when we're looking at a guide hand and release? We want to see that. 5 fingers to the ceiling, completely vertical, no thumb impact, and that left hand finishes completely there. How do I know that that's impactful on her shot on games? Well, that's what her shooting chart for the year says. You can see Allie shot 101 threes this year. She shot 34%. Where did she make and miss her threes? She shot an amazing 84 threes online. She only had 17 threes that she missed left or right. What's one of the main reasons for that? This finish right here. So that right hand power allows that guide hand to be really still and those 2 hands not working against each other. The center of her hand shoots the center of the ball at the center of the rim with very little guide hand impact. Here's Trevor Zamron, one of the hardest working players I've worked with. Trevor's worked really hard. He used to have a significant guide hand impact, and here's part of this process where he's getting better and better and better. So when he moves into the shot, see how his left hand is in a little bit of a claw grip? When the left guide hand starts to look like that, there's a chance it's going to push a little bit. So when Trevor gets to here, you see that thumb just flip a little bit open? You can really see it right here. That thumb is the last finger on the ball. So it's really, in Trevor's instance, not the guide hand impacting his shot. It's just that thumb, and it flies open. I always tell players, if I could come slap you 5, that's how you know that that guide hand is turning. So Trevor's continued, this is a pretty old film, Trevor's continued to get better at this, but this is something that I would say is kind of a little bit of a minor thumbing of the ball when we get to that spot. And you can see he ends up in a pretty good spot, and his right hand is really, really good. But you can see a little bit of the thumbing there from Trevor. Here's another example of some guide hand impact from the left-handed side this time. You can see how this shooter's hand, when he gets to here, opens all the way up and is almost pointing to or curving away from the basket. So here's one where it's a little bit more of a significant guide hand follow through, and then you can see kids that are really using that guide hand significantly finishing in this spot right here. So 3 examples there of kids and players using their guide hand differently to impact the shot, which is our 5th shooting key that we've been looking at. Remember, the less guide hand impact you have, the more that right hand can shoot the ball straight. So I have a game plan and a series of drills that I use with players to help decrease that guide hand impact. Contact me at Make Shots for further details. We can get started on that virtually, or we can wait till we're in the gym. Next time we'll be back to talk about number 6, hands connected and the alignment after release.